David Harsanyi is a senior editor over at The Federalist. He's also the author of the book Eurotrash, Why America Must Reject the Failed Ideas of a Dying Continent. David, great to have you back with us, sir.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
What do you make of this week's events as they relate to our understanding of what the federal government was up to and how it relates to Joe Biden?
Well, I think we sort of knew a lot of this already, though seeing the two whistleblowers sitting in front of a committee in Congress and just noting how high up they were in this investigation and how basically, I think Ziegler said he had investigated maybe 95% of the Hunter Biden case is quite dramatic and should be quite big news, which it isn't. Other than CBS, I'm not sure most major outlets even covered it at all. But to me, the biggest news was that they, or at least Ziegler for sure, said that he had been basically dissuaded or, told to slow walk the investigation anytime it kind of veered into the broader family business, especially Joe Biden. And I think that should be massive news.
No question. And these guys are pretty big. Are, as you mentioned, like they're a big deal. They're right at the tippy top of the IRS investigation into the Biden family's finances. They were routinely met with blockading by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Delaware, for instance, where the assistant U.S. attorney there, Leslie Wolf, is alleged to have told them multiple times not to look into Dad, not to look into the big guy, don't ask questions on that subject, They said that same U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI were routinely tipping off Hunter Biden's world, their circle, ahead of investigative activities, which corrupted the investigation in meaningful ways. And these guys, they have a better posture here, position here to be able to speak on all of this than, say, Alexander Vindman did during the impeachment of Donald Trump. That guy was listening to a phone call, whereas these guys are the top investigators digging into the Biden family's finances.
Right. You had the two top investigators, I believe, into who are looking into this case, not someone who overheard something, not someone who saw a document, who say that one of them says he wrote a 99-page memo laying out why Hunter Biden should have been charged with felonies, and that every prosecutor and investigator agreed with him that should be the case. That is pretty huge. But again, we're talking about, I think it was $17 million coming in, right?
Yes.
From foreign sources, for instance. So that seems like a lot of money. And, no one has really ever gotten an answer yet from the White House or Biden or anyone to explain what services Hunter Biden could offer Romanian, Ukrainian, Chinese companies that is worth that much money, or if the president was involved at all.
How is it possible that our media can be so thoroughly corrupt as to not be asking questions like this on a routine basis? Like, how did that happen, David?
I don't know. I mean, it used to be that I thought that they saw the world through the prism of left-wing, politics, so they didn't ask the right questions and they were biased and this and that. But now this is just corrupt. I mean, it's just corrupt not to ask these questions. There are documents, for instance, from a FBI source who says that Joe Biden took money, that Joe Biden basically bribed someone. Even if it wasn't bribery, to take that money would be corrupt, right? So it would be a huge story, whether it was criminal behavior or not. And yet you almost have no one asking about it. It's kind of mind blowing. I mean, I'm not a young man, right? I've been around, and I can't simply imagine that that you have reporters, professional journalists who care about the truth, who wouldn't even show any curiosity about this.
Yeah, it's and the treatment of it today is that, to the extent that any media outlet's talking about it at all, they're using the word unverified in the headline over and over, and in order to kind of diminish it. Although nobody's really pointing out that this came from a source that the FBI considered to be highly credible, that they worked with for a long time, that they paid large sums of money because of how valuable the source had been in the past. All of those seem, and by the way, all of the allegations seem to line up pretty neatly with a bunch of public reporting about the events surrounding the allegations. In other words, there's a lot of reasons to believe that this is an authentic accounting of what was going on between Burisma and the Biden family.
It sure does. I mean, and we know that the president has lied about not knowing anything about this business. I mean, that we know he lied about that. He has never answered a question, really, since then about any kind of specific question about why, for instance, Hunter wasn't on a plane with him when he was vice president going to China to meet with someone. Why these Ukrainians said that they had met with the president and thanked Hunter, like things like that. I mean, these are specific, very specific questions that could easily be answered. He could get up there and say, listen, I've never done A, B, and C. And then, people can verify it or not, but at least he would answer. But he doesn't even, he's not even pressured into answering those questions.
It does seem, it's interesting to watch what's happening on Capitol Hill, because now it looks like we've got a number of whistleblowers, and it seems with each passing week we have more and more. You remember, it kind of started with these FBI whistleblowers who started coming out of the woodwork. Then we get the IRS whistleblowers. Yesterday, Chuck Grassley released that document you just referred to, which was the bribery allegation in detail that was much debated with the FBI, whether or not any piece of it would ever be shown to the public. Now it's all being shown to the public thanks to Chuck Grassley, but he says he obtained that through even more whistleblowers coming out of the Department of Justice and the FBI. Do you feel like we're heading towards full transparency on this? Are there enough people that are going to come out to tell us the truth?
I'm pretty cynical that we're going to ever get any kind of full transparency, considering the people who are running the Justice Department right now, or perhaps ever. But, they keep mentioning recordings and stuff like that. I mean,
yes.
if there was, I mean, I really would be curious to hear what's on those recordings. Let's say that. So I don't know if we'll ever be able to. I don't know if we'll ever see, if they'll ever unwind all the documentation for how the money got to Joe Biden, if it did, or Hunter, and how that all worked. But there are a lot of hints that they may have that kind of information, and that I think would be hard to ignore for any media. Even, I mean, you couldn't ignore a recording, right? That's something you couldn't ignore. You'd have to report. I think that would be devastating.
And so, and I know at one point Hunter Biden sat down for an interview where the reporter did ask a number of questions that I would want to ask Joe Biden, which are, what were you being paid for? Do you think they'd be paying for you this way if you weren't Biden? And Hunter admitted, he's like, well, no, the last name, that's kind of the reason I've had so many opportunities in my life. I'll admit that, and on and on. I want those questions put to Joe, David Harsanyi. I want to hear him answer. Why was your son being paid $83,000 a month by Burisma? What service could he possibly have provided? Are you going to continue to sit there with a straight face and lie to the American public that you never spoke to your son about his business dealings? First of all, what kind of father doesn't talk to his kid about the way he makes money? That doesn't even make any sense.
Or the whole family, or the brother, or the grown grandchildren, or everyone in the family basically got money. I just hate to say this, but I have to. If any Republican, I mean, I hate formulating it like this because it's boring already, but if any Republican had this kind of documented, accusation put against him, a president, it would be a thermonuclear blast. I mean, it would be the biggest story since, Watergate or whatever. So it's just nuts.
And it reminds me, I was trying to think of analogies for this, like what other things have occurred that were like this. But this is kind of similar, but totally dissimilar in a meaningful way. The P-tape allegations against Donald Trump were in this ridiculous Steele dossier document, which had things in it that were provably false from the outset. The media leapt all over that and continued to run it. And I just pulled this up. This is from 6 years ago. This is Inside Edition. They went in. They put a full film crew inside of the Moscow hotel where it was believed that Donald Trump was engaged in water sports with Russian prostitutes.
A presidential suite at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Moscow, where that unsubstantiated report claims Donald Trump engaged in perverted acts with prostitutes. The report, published by BuzzFeed, has been declared reckless, even by many journalists. It claims Trump set out to defile the suite because President Obama and the first family had once stayed there.
Anyway, so on and on. We got a million packages like this, David Harsanyi, but when you get credible allegations against Joe Biden by a trusted FBI source, it's crickets.
Yeah, and anytime you attack the FBI now, they're like, "Why do you hate the police?" Anytime you say anything about the IRS, they're like, "Why do you hate the IRS? We're just trying to provide more customer service." But now, when you have, from what we know, and I'm sure if these two IRS guys didn't have impeccable records there, we would know about it already. If they had done anything, they had gotten a parking ticket, we would know about it. They would be smeared. But yet they're not. So it tells me that these. I think if people had, they seem credible, and what they said was, they had meticulously documented all of the things that they had gone through. They're IRS guys, right? And I think that's why no one covered it. You don't want these guys in front of a camera. You don't want voters seeing this. Though sometimes I wonder if any scandal will change anyone's mind anymore. Sometimes I wonder about that.
I know. I agree with you. But you're right. They seem very trustworthy, actually. And to reiterate the point, this is the supervisor and the lead case agent at the IRS making these claims. You can't get any better than that. And they're out there in public in a very sober way, non-hysterical, just saying, here's what I've seen. I've never seen it throughout the rest of my 13 or 14-year career. It's only happened in this case, and I'm very troubled by it. The other piece that they're troubled by is that they believe that Attorney General Merrick Garland lied to Congress. They said as much in so many words this week. Merrick Garland has been insisting that U.S. Attorney David Weiss has just complete authority to do whatever he wants in pursuing the Biden case. And these IRS guys are saying that's not true. And, whether he lied knowingly or not, he deceived Congress. That seems like a big deal, David.
Yeah, and they say, I forgot which one said that there were 7 people in the room when he said it. So, I think the next step would be to bring those people in, put them under oath, and see what they have to say, right? About that. It seems like a logical step to take.
Yeah, I hope they do it soon. And get aggressive. It's like it just kills me that it takes forever. David Harsanyi, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time today, sir.